All right, now we're going to go ahead and look at our cosecant graph. Now with this graph, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of the values here because it's you can do it. You can find the values, but I'm not going to have you do all of that really as of right now. I'm going to have you do that later on. But let's see if I can do. Yeah, we'll do that part. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these. The pi over 4s. I'm going to get rid of those. I'm going to make this as easy as possible when it comes to our secant and cosecant graph. So when it comes to making your table, this time we'll get rid of the pi over 4s. All we need is our pi's and pi over 2's. So like the pi over 2, negative pi over 2, and all that stuff. So we're going to find the values of these. But again, when we do this, we're going to put in the calculator like normal. But this time, instead of us actually just putting in like tangent or sine over cosine or all that stuff, we know cosecant is 1 over sine or flipped sine. So we're going to, when we put in the calculator, we're going to do 1 divided by sine of negative pi over 2 pi. And then we're going to do 1 over sine negative 3 pi over 2. And then so on and so forth to find our cosecant value. 1 over sine, because there's not a cosecant button on our calculator. So that's what we're going to have to do. So go ahead and do that part, fill this in, and then we're going to come back. All right, so looking at each one of these, if we start with our 0, that's going to be undefined. So you should have got an undefined value there. Should have a 1. And then when it comes to pi over 2, you should have gotten 1. And then at pi, you should get undefined. And then at 3 pi over 2, you get negative 1. And then at 2 pi, you get undefined again. So again, at the pi's, you get undefined. And then the values for the other ones go back and forth. So if we look at pi over 2, that should be at negative 1. And then at 3 pi over 2, it should be back at positive 1. Now, when we look at it and go ahead and fill in the chart, we need to stop the video, stop it. But then we look at our graph, and for some reason it's very low. If we look at our graph, we're going to take, first off, I'm going to start off with our sine graph. Because we're talking about the cosecant graph, it's just the flipping sine. So looking at our sine graph, we know we go through 0, 0. At pi over 2, it's at 1. At pi is at 0. At negative 1 is at 3 pi over 2. And then here back at 0. And then it continues on. So down at negative 1. Here at 0 at pi, negative pi. Up 1 at negative 3 pi over 2. And then back at 0 for negative 2 pi. I'm going to make this a dotted line so you can see it, and it will not be the exact same as the other parts. Oh, Jesus. Okay, again, make sure these are nice and curvy, not like absolute value graphs, nice and curvy. And please make yours better than mine, please, 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 please. I'm using this tablet thingy, and this airliner is looking weird. So, all your curves and all your edges. All right, so make it curvy, nice and curvy. This is horrible. All right, so with this, when it comes to I'm going to make this in green. When it comes to our cosecant graph, wherever we have zeros, those are asymptotes, because that's where if we flip 0, it comes undefined. So here we have an asymptote here for our graph. We have an asymptote right here. We have an asymptote right there. It's almost like our cotangent graph that has asymptotes at pi's. All right, now the other part is we're going to be dealing with u's instead of actually dealing with like the tangent graph or the sine function. We're going to deal with u's, and because it's a positive one, it's above the x-axis. Our u is going to go up like this, and they're going to go up forever and ever. That's why I put arrows. This one's going to go down forever and ever because it's at negative 1. This one's going to go back up. This one's going to go back down. And so our actual cosecant graph, cosecant graph, I'm going to remove the blue part. Oh, let's get rid of that. So our actual cosecant graph looks like this. So there's nothing that's between the x-axis and that point. It's x-axis and that point. There's nothing that goes between those. So we're going to keep them as it is. So when it comes to this part, we have u's, and it's only at the ones or negative ones. And if you know your sine graph, like we did a few seconds ago, like we have here, if you know your sine graph, you should know where the u's are going to be. Which ones are positive, which ones are negative, which ones above the x-axis, which ones below. All right, and again, now that we're finished with this, underneath this graph, leave about this time about 8 or 9 lines because you have something you're going to fill in underneath there. And then we're going to do our secant graph.